Hi, I had a leak in the ceiling of my kitchen over the Christmas holiday. You can see the Christmas tree still in the back there. And what happened is we had somebody was taking a shower upstairs, and in the process of trying to change one of the spigots, I broke through the copper tubing, and this created a leak that I didn't know about until somebody started taking a shower, and we saw water coming down onto the stove that's below the shower. So at that point, what I should have done is, as well as turning off the water, is I should have poked holes in the sheetrock right above it to let all the water out. And that would have saved me a lot of trouble, but I didn't know that at the time, so we got inside, we pulled the insulation away from it, opened it up, and we put a fan on it. But that wasn't enough because the drywall began to sag. So I had an option where I could either cut away all the sheetrock and put a new piece in, or I could do something else. Now, if you cut away all the sheetrock, the problem is that there's a stippling effect that was put in here when the house was new, and it's really hard to duplicate that. It's really hard and difficult to get any of the taping on the joints to lay flat, so you can always pretty much see it. Now, I have some experience with this because I replaced some of that sheetrock once before when I took a light fixture down that had been built into the ceiling. So I'm trying to avoid that, and I'm going to try this compression technique that a friend of mine who is a builder, ex-builder, said, "Ed, just re-wet it and push it back up there and let it dry out and it'll be fine. Just put some screws back in there and retape it." So I'm going to try it. As you can see, I had a leak in my ceiling. Turns out it was on Christmas Eve. Everybody was over, and I had to fix it. So we let it dry. Then comes time to fix it. So I could tear all this down, or I can try another trick, which would be to re-wet it and compress it. And that's what I'm going to try. So I found the center of the sag. And you can see right there that there's got a mark right there, and I'm going to put a sheet of 2x4 sheet of plywood up, and see whether I can slowly compress this after re-wetting it with a solution of water and Clorox. So one of the reasons for attempting this is because you can see that the ceiling has a pattern of drywall compound all over it. It's really hard to reproduce, and you can see that when I tried to patch another part, it doesn't come out that good. So better if I can just do this without having to do anything but patch it. Alright, so this is the framework that I've built to try and compress the sheetrock back up against the ceiling. You can see that there was a crack there, and some of the taping has come away. We had water running down onto the countertop. So this is what I've set up here, and I have it set up so that it's just a little bit lower than or a little bit shorter than the ceiling height, and then I put some shims in it to hold it in place, and then I have a jack. So after I wet the drywall from above, then I'm going to allow it to soak for a little while, drill some holes, and allow the excess to drain out, and then slowly jack this up over the next couple of days and let it dry with some fans upstairs. And I made up a solution of about half a cup of Clorox in a gallon of water, and I'll add some of that until it starts to pour out everywhere, and then we'll stop and let it soak. Alright, so you can see that we're making some progress. I was able to jack that up maybe a couple of inches. If you look down at the bottom here, you can see that there was kind of a big space. I just had a couple of these under here before, so at least that much has been jacked up, pushed back up. And that was just done with that jack. And you'll notice even that gap there is getting a little bit smaller where some of the tape is pulled away. Okay, it's been up there now for 4 days drying out, and I put some screws in through the sheetrock and into the ceiling studs, and we'll see how that works. Okay, so you can see that the scaffolding has been removed, the screw holes have been patched up, and the whole thing has been painted, and results came out pretty well.